point. Is this real? Or is this just a ride? The world is like a ride. You think it's real? It's just a ride. We can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice between fear and love. The world is like a ride. You think it's real? It's just a ride. We can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice between fear and love.
Greetings, programs. Welcome to Red Pill Sunday School here on UCY.TV. It is Sunday, February 18th, 2018, and I am making a little announcement today. I'm going to be quitting this radio show at UCY here and taking a break for a while. Well, not so much a break as, I need to focus on my writing. I can't seem to do two things at once. I can't seem to be prepared for a show as I do every week. And if you've heard my shows, obviously there's a lot of preparatory work. And, I'm expressing myself on the radio and I'm not writing it down. And that is a problem. And so I'm going to be relinquishing this little gig here every Sunday, at least for a while. Now, the problem, of course, is that again puts me into obscurity. It means that I won't be, getting the attention. I'll probably stop getting donations, and I'll probably stop, getting the interviews and the few that I do get anymore. And, it's a problem, but I'm not here to make money or to be famous or infamous or anything else. I just want to put my time and my effort and my skills to the best use. There's two things I would like to do that this show just seems to be getting in the way of, and that is to, one, make a vaccine documentary, or should I say the vaccine, the end of all documentary, the documentary of all documentaries when it comes to vaccines, with my friend Patrick Jordan, and all of the information that he has uncovered mixed in with mine. In fact, I was just pulling up something that's just really getting to me. I can hardly do it, which is the mouse industry, which we've talked about before on my previous venture over there at RBN. We were talking about the number one slave market, the most horrible thing I can imagine is the mouse market, the lab rats as they call them, and it's just the most horrific thing you'll ever look at. But what's so horrific about it, you might ask? Well, you see, these mice, they come to wherever you are experimenting, you order these mice. And there's catalogs and catalogs of different mice that you can get. Each one with a different expression of disease or with a missing gene or something, different blood, something that has been made to cause this mouse to express certain disease or to be able to express certain symptoms or disease. It's just absolutely, it's freaking horrible. It's horrible. And so I'm pulling up these videos to show, I'm not showing it just for the cruelty, just for the inhumanity, just for the absolute lack of empathy, treating these things as if they're not sentient beings, not something of God, basically something of nature, but the fact that they're injecting disease into these mice. I don't know what it is, where the disconnect is with people, that all this disease is coming from these injections, right? It's night and day. I mean, basically they're vaccinating or inoculating these mice to receive a certain trait, a certain gene code or recoding, an epigenomic recoding, whatever it is, they're injecting something into these mice to make that happen in all cases. Now, why in the hell do you think you have so many problems? Why do you think your children have so many problems? Because you are allowing them and yourself to be injected by what can only be called an absolute ignorant wasp in a nurse's outfit who knows nothing about vaccinations nor anything about the ingredients thereof. So you can't, what do you? It's like a gun almost. You can't blame the gun for the violence. You got to blame the one wielding it, right? Well, you can't really. I mean, you can, but the nurse is like a gun. They're used by the pharmaceutical industry, and specifically by doctors who they have to operate under. Unless they're a practitioner, they are doing what they're told to do. They're just grunts. They're employees. They're agents. They're in the agentic relationship. And that's what they do. They're like the delivery system. They're wasps. They sting you. And they deliver into your body exactly what they're delivering into these mice bodies. Adjuvants, poisons, literally things that will make you express disease. And as far as the vaccination part, I don't even give a shit. I really don't care whether vaccines actually work to prevent the specific disease they're meant to present. That is like that's the smallest aspect of this whole thing. It matters not whether vaccines work or not. I'm not arguing whether vaccines work or not. As far as their stated purpose, which is to cause an antibody. Wow, one antibody. Ooh, yeah, that's going to stop anthrax from killing you? Are you freaking kidding me? No. It's what else is in the vaccine. It's what the vaccines are grown on. It's the blood. Remember, if you eat blood, you're eating a substance that breaks down in the body as a quote-unquote food. But if you inject it, it still acts like blood. It's going into your body and trying to do its purpose. It's not being digested, not being broken down. It's trying to intermix. You got proteins, your prions that we've talked about so much. This is all being injected in you. And that's the craziest part of it all, because it's so... If you watch any of these videos, they're all over YouTube. All over YouTube. If you watch any of these videos, my friends, what you will find is this incredibly horrible thing going on behind the scenes. And keep in mind that mice are literally nothing like humans. The tests that are done on mice, I don't know, some ridiculous number, like 60 or 80%, do not translate to their human counterparts. So it's a pointless effort in the first place. But the illusion of it, the idea of it keeps the whole system going as if it's beneficial to man. It's not beneficial to man. It's not that it's curing the disease. You'll get the disease, but your body is expressing the disease without the symptoms. And because of that, the research has been done, which will be in the documentary, that shows that you have a 2,000% higher chance, because you didn't express whatever, smallpox, etc., because you didn't express the symptoms, your body's epigenomic response didn't happen, the switches weren't turned off, and therefore you have a 2,000% higher chance of expressing other diseases like cancers. Okay, that is what vaccines, that's why they work. They don't work because they prevent disease. They work because they cause disease without symptoms. And your body, therefore, expresses antibodies. Yes, that is the definition of a successful vaccine. It expresses antibodies. Does that mean it's going to prevent the disease? Of course not. It's ridiculous. If you read the vaccine, the label itself, the insert for the vaccines, it'll tell you, we cannot filter out proteins, prions, etc. That you will be injected. And again, if you eat a protein, your body breaks it down. That's the digestive system. If you inject a protein, i.e. a prion, or blood, or anything else, guess what? That thing's going to act as it would in its natural host. I'm a cow protein. Wait, what is this? That's a human protein. What am I to do? Well, shit. We can't communicate, so I'm going to try to reprogram that cell, and oh, look what happens. Gee, I caused a disease. Don't you get it? It doesn't matter whether vaccines work. It's the ingredients that are the problem. The culture of whole organs or intact organ fragments with the intent to use cells as machinery to produce biological is called organ culture. When the cells are removed from the organ fragments prior to or during cultivation, thus disrupting their normal relationships with neighboring cell, the technology is called a cell culture. Again, disrupting their normal relationships with neighboring cells. Well, what happens when you reintroduce it into a body? Well, howdy, neighbor. Hi. It's like a black person moving into a white neighborhood. I mean, it's like, come on. What the fuck do you think is going to happen? Oh, but that's racist. Okay, a white person moving into a black neighborhood. How about when the white people came to America? What happened? Racism. Okay, whatever. You know, if you can't see past your own genetic freaking code, I can't help you here. All right? When some culture moves into another culture, whether that's a cell substrate culture, or whether it's a cultural, right? A white people, black people, Mexican people, whatever. Get over it. It's a metaphor. My God. All right? They're going to change the culture. They're going to change the cell. Again, change the neighborhood, change the cell. It's metaphoric. It means the same thing. It's going to communicate and alter the functionality, purpose, etc. of that culture. That's all I can say. I don't know what else. How else can I put it to you? The cell culture, let's see. When cells are individually disassociated from an organism. In other words, it doesn't have anybody to communicate with. It's not the same organism. And placed into a suitable medium and support culture environment, they will attach, divide, and grow. Guess what? Your body is a frickin' suitable medium and support culture environment. Yes, they will attach, divide, and grow. And they'll say, howdy, neighbor. The cell culture is named primary culture. Cell culture may be initiated from normal embryonic or malignant tissue. When cells... Did you hear that? What is malignant? What is malignant tissue? Do you know the definition of malignant, folks? It's essentially cancerous, all right? Let me just read it. This is the 1828 definition, just because I have it up in front of me real quick. Malignus, maligno, from malice or evil. Malicious, having extreme malevolence or enmity, as a malignant heart. This is malignant. Unpropitious, exerting pernicious influence, as a malignant start. Virulent, as a malignant ulcer. Dangerous to life, as a malignant fever. Extremely heinous, as a malignant nature of sin. Malignant is a noun, is a man of extreme enmity or evil intentions. So we're going to grow our unfilterable vaccines on malignant tissue culture, which cannot be filtered from the vaccine, and we're going to inject that right in your body. Well, God, I don't know why I got this disease. I don't know where this cancer came from. Gee, why am I so sick? Why do I have chronic fatigue syndrome? Why is my body? Why do I have arthritis? Why do I have all these things? Why do you think? They just told you. When cells in the primary culture vessel have grown and filled up all of the available culture substrate, they may be subcultured and give place for continued growth. Again, your body, folks, is that culture. And remember, what is medical is not a science. They call it a science. It's an empty word. Science is the study and beauty of nature. Studying to understand nature and use it naturally in harmony with nature, not what we have today. Medical, when you look up the word medical, it does not say that it's a science. Okay? It says that it's an art. And remember, art is fiction. Art is artifice. Artifice, the reason it's not science is because science cannot be patented. Only medical. This is why it's not illegal. You don't need a license to do science. You need a license to practice medicine. Medicine is a proprietary term of the state. Science is not. And you know what? The scientific term for pot is cannabis. The common name, the legal name, is marijuana. They don't charge you for cannabis, they charge you for marijuana. See the difference? One is science, one is a medical term, which means it's a proprietary patented term. Following serial subculture of primary cells, cells that continue to grow are subjected to genetic reorganization. And adapt to the new synthetic environment and proliferate serially, like serial killers, generating an immortalization event that results in a continuous cell line over several passages, or definitely immortal cells. Now, folks, what happens? I mean, what happens to those proteins, those cells? Right? When your vaccine insert says we cannot filter that out. We cannot filter out. And therefore there's a danger of these weird diseases that no one seems to understand, and they seem to be leading to, the entire spectrum of dementia, from autism to Parkinson's to, right? Because remember, you have healthy prions, proteins in your body. When a foreign one comes into contact with that, what does it do? Just what it says it's going to do. You're a new synthetic environment. You're synthetic, not so much, but you're a new natural environment that's different from the one it had. It's going to reorganize genetically and adapt to the new environment. What does that mean? It's going to start reprogramming your cells, or what they call misfolding, or which actually is the definition for evolution. The unfolding of man, as what's his name, Salk, I think, wrote his book, The Unfolding of Man, i.e. the misfolding prion. Yeah, are you starting to get this? An immortal, so you're going to put an immortal cell that they keep cloning and grow, and and you're going to inject it into your body, because why? Because the insert says they can't filter that out. It's too small. Now, you want to know what the cause of all modern disease is. All of these new diseases they keep coming up with. Where are they coming from? How is this happening? Isn't it fucking obvious? These are biological weapons. They know that they are biological weapons. Patrick has the government documents that show they know that they're biological weapons. And let's not forget, what were the original vaccines? Oh, let me scrape the pus off the horse hoof, scratch you, and put the pus in your body. There was no needle. It was just, hey, I'm going to smear some pus in a cut I made on your skin. Let's see what happens. Oh, sorry, killed my own son that way. Right? This is craziness. That is where vaccines, that is the microcosm where vaccines came from. That was the idea. I'm going to spread some pus in your body and it's going to prevent disease. Oh, sorry, caused you the disease. This is just one element of what we're talking about in this documentary. Just one major element. The point I'm trying to make, long-windedly, is that in order to get a mouse that you can test, you have to pay for that mouse. It is a patented mouse. It is property. And so will you be the more they fuck with your genetic makeup. The more they change you, the more they alter you, the more they inject into you, the more they transhumanize you, the more close you become to being property. I remember that long ago I read that 40% of the human genes are already patented. Corruption of blood. This is why I need to get out of this radio thing. See, I'm expressing myself on the radio. I'm not writing it down. I'm not making a freaking documentary. Instead, I'm here blathering to a few hundred people if I'm lucky. This is why I need to go and make something. You know, my last documentary has had over 250,000 hits on YouTube from all the people that have shared it, because it's free. I don't know how many copies have been sold. Well, I shouldn't say sold, given away at $1 at the Dollar DVD Project. Right? I have no idea. I don't keep track. I don't care. Well, I do care. I hope it's a lot. The point is, what I'm able to reach on this obscure platform compared to what I can reach in other ways, it doesn't add up. It doesn't equal the expression of all of this and the effort that I'm putting into this. And yes, let me say right now, thank you. Thank you so much to everybody who supported me, everybody who sent me donations, gifts, everybody who's wanted a copy of the book, everybody who sent me things in the mail. I don't ever... I'm not ungrateful just because I don't mention it every frickin' show like some people. Just because I don't open up my show by telling you how many donations have come in and thanking you and making this whole thing money-centric doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. It doesn't mean that I don't know what the hell I would have done without it, honestly, in my situation. That's another aspect of this. People ask me all the time or assume that I have somehow left the system. I have not. I'm as stuck in this matrix as anybody else. I don't care what anybody tells you. I'm a national, and therefore, I have a passport that says this. Oh, look, I do this. I have a patent because I filed a piece of paper. I didn't actually get it issued from government. I just said, hey, it's mine. Now, all these people are full of shit, and I'm done with it. I don't recommend anybody out there except there's one exception. I would recommend you listen to Hal Anthony. Hal Anthony has the show on Behind the Woodshed, Behind Mine. Hal Anthony's walking the walk, man. He's doing the right thing. Doesn't mean that he's all-knowing. Doesn't mean I'm all-knowing. It's just that he's actually walking the walk. He is a miner, a true miner. He's gone by the original mining law. He has gotten and researched and become an assignee of the original patent, the federal patent, and he is working the land in its highest purpose, and therefore he's using the public roads for their purpose, which is the ability of farmers and etc., the highest use of land to be able to give away or sell or whatever their goods, their vegetables, their ores, their placers, their tomatoes, whatever. Right, that's the highest use. That's why you're able to travel on public land, public roads for free. That's why if you ever see a tractor going along the road and you get angry and you get upset because he's only going 10 miles an hour, that tractor has right of way. It always will. It has to be that way because that is the highest use of the road. That is you're there strictly as a tourist, a user. You contribute nothing except taxation. You are the lowest possible use. So that's off the top of my head. That is the only show, the only man out there walking the walk that I would actually recommend people go back and dig into his archives. Hal Anthony, man, he's the man. He was one of my mentors, actually, and I suppose myself for him as well. We taught each other a lot of things. I think. I'd like to think, anyway. He's been doing this a lot longer than me. So, again, thank you, folks. I feel like last time I did this, because I needed to finish this book, and, I got three other books I want to write. I want to write a book on Kafirs. Right? I mean, it's a very important history. The Model Corporations Act, where everything became a corporation, right? There's so much important stuff that I need to get down, not in just some vocal format. No, this is not doing anybody any good. It's fun, it's great to listen to. I get compliments on it all the time, but it's not permanent. It's not usable. You can't take it and express it in a courtroom or express it. It's not the proper use of my time. And part of that is frustration, There's so much infighting, there's so much ridiculousness within these groups, these sects, these alternative movements. Whether you're, everybody focuses on one thing instead of the whole thing. It doesn't matter, right? You're therefore going to have wrong information. It's just that's how it works. I want to end the Fed because that's the basis of all problems. No, it's not. That's like blaming the pollution instead of the polluter. That's like not blaming the corporations, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Go to the source. What's the source of the Fed? The Congress is the problem. Government is the fricking problem. They are completely and 100% regulated by the laws created by Congress. Just because they make their own rules and call themselves independent does not mean anything. The post office isn't independent. Doesn't mean it's not part of government. Doesn't mean Congress didn't freaking create it. So you go and you join these movements and you get this false information promoted by, yes, of course, the shock jocks, especially the one that I always talk about. This is part of the reason I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a part of this idiocracy that is the alternative. I mean, it's to me, it's worse than the mainstream. You know, it's one thing to be to be a fan, I guess, or watch the mainstream news and continue on. It's a whole other thing to be in the alternative movement and carry on and as if everything is normal. Well, on the side, I'm a patriot, but during the day, I have this day job where I work for the state, or I work for this. I wave the American flag, the United States flag, even though that's what enslaves me. Right? I mean, the patriot movement is ridiculous. It's patently ridiculous. I can't do it anymore. I mean, I spend half my time answering emails. And you know what? It's funny because the Federal Reserve has to do it too. They have their little fact section. You could go and you can see that they have to come out with these question and answer things, you know, that disprove all the patriot nonsense, all the end the Fed nonsense, Ron Paul's lies that are proven by his bills that he writes. You know, well, gee, why don't you end it? Oh, because Congress has to end it. Oh, that makes sense. Because Congress created it. It's just, I'm just tired. I guess I'm worn out. And you know, people I've trusted over the years, someone I thought I was teaching and helping in his journey has now turned against me. So that's one more platform I won't be on anymore. This is the realm of idiocracy, and I can't do it anymore. And you know, here is what I've figured out. It's not so much that we're just in an idiocracy. We're in what properly would be called the Flat Earth Society. The Flat Earth Society as it was created in whenever it was created. In fact, let me pull some facts up here about that, because that's really what I think what we're dealing with. We're dealing with the Flat Earth Society. But you see, the Flat Earth, that's just a word. That's just a term to describe a multitude of idiotic concepts, right? And even the Bible says there will be those who come and try to change times and history, right? Times and law. That's what's happening. That's what we're witnessing right now. Is even the Iron Mountain report that came out warned that there'd be all these artifacts and all these scrolls and things that are fake that are going to come out and seek to change the times and laws. And that's what you're seeing, the Dead Sea Scrolls, etc., etc., etc. You're seeing these artifacts being discovered all over the place. And you're seeing everything being called as fakery. All right, so I'm not interested in your opinions of whether the Earth is round or flat. That's not my point here. My point is to define what the Flat Earth Society was. Just because it's called the Flat Earth Society doesn't necessarily mean that that's what it was about, okay? What we're talking about is the Zetetic Society. The Universal Zetetic Society is the origin of the Flat Earth Society, okay? It's a philosophy and a method. It's the opposite of the scientific method. It ignores the unseen, right? The unseen aspect of everything. The Universal Zetetic Society, or UZS, was the precursor to the Flat Earth Society. It was founded shortly after the death of Samuel Rowbotham, a.k.a. Parallax, as a nickname, by Rowbotham's adherents. The UZS was active well into the early part of the 20th century, publishing many issues of a magazine titled The Earth, Not a Globe Review. In 1971, the UZS, the Universal Zetetic Society, was renamed the Flat Earth Society when Samuel Shenton became its leader. Mr. Rowbotham, or Parallax, who died in 1884, was an English inventor and writer who wrote Zetetic Astronomy, Earth, Not a Globe, based on his decade-long scientific studies of the Earth, published in a 16-page pamphlet in 1849, which he later expanded into a 430-page book in 1881, expounding his views. According to Rowbotham's scientific method, alternative scientific method, which he called Zetetic Astronomy, The Earth is a flat disk centered at the North Pole, and bounded along its southern edge by a wall of ice, with the sun, moon, planets, and stars only a few thousand miles above the surface of the Earth. Robotham and his followers gained notoriety, and here's the important part. How do you gain notoriety with such ridiculous views? By engaging in raucous public debates with leading scientists of the day. One such class, involving the prominent naturalist Alfred Russel Wallace, led to several lawsuits for fraud and libel. That's how bad it is, because you're not trying to prove your point. You're just simply getting in people's face and saying, you're a round earther, or you are this, or you are that. Not any proofs, right? Because all the proofs are easily disputed, easily shown to be false. After Robotham's death, his thousands of followers established the Universal Zetetic Society, published a magazine entitled The Earth Not a Globe Review, and remained active well into the early part of the 20th century. Zeteticism is a system of scientific inquiry. The word is derived from the Greek verb zetio, which means to search or examine, to proceed only by inquiry. Only by inquiry. Zeteticism differs from the usual scientific method in that using Zeteticism, one bases his conclusions on experimentation and observation rather than on initial theory that was to be proved or disproved. That is essentially what science has turned into today. The catchword, the fake word science, because it's no longer the study of nature. It's no longer, I think nature works this way. It's, how can I manipulate nature to please myself? How can I alter nature to make it disharmonious? Right? That's what science, quote unquote, has become, the corporate structure. A zetetic forms the question, then immediately sets to work making observations and performing experiments to answer that question, rather than speculating on what the answer might be and then testing that out. For example, in questioning the shape of the Earth, the zetetic does not make a hypothesis suggesting that the Earth is round or flat, and then proceed testing that hypothesis. He skips that step and devises an experiment that will determine the shape of the Earth, and bases his conclusions on the result of that experiment. Naturally, that means I'm going to ignore the very foundations of science, the study of nature, whether it agrees or disagrees with you, and I'm going to automatically do a test that I know will prove my point. In other words, I'm going to look at the horizon and say, hey, it looks flat, therefore the Earth is flat. Many feel this is a more reasonable method than the normal scientific method because it removes any preconceived notions and biases the formation of a hypothesis might cause, and leaves the conclusion up entirely to what is observed. What is observed? Oh, there's so many fallacies when it comes to this. I mean, it's just hilarious. Let's take another flat Earth mentality thing. Let's take what people are calling the Mandela effect. So, in the Mandela effect, you find things like the Berenstain Bears, or now the Berenstein Bears, or Darth Vader said something different in the original than now. Suddenly, somehow time or space has changed, and the original Darth Vader words are not the same. Or, a box of chocolates in Forrest Gump was changed. In other words, fictional things have been changed. What I remember it being said, and even what is quoted by the actual actors is what they said, is not the same as what it says in the movies now. Because they've been digitally remade. C-3PO has a gold leg instead of a silver leg. Therefore, the Mandela effect is true. I have observed that a Cheerios box is different than it was in the 70s, and it has changed in the 2000s, and therefore the Mandela effect is true. You see, I have ignored the scientific method altogether, and I've gone zetetic. I've gone flat Earth. Right? I've become, for all intents and purposes, ridiculous, an idiot. I'm sorry. I know that's probably going to offend people. The truth can never offend, though, and this is the truth. So wake up to your own idiocracy. Wake up to what you're a part of. Realize the roots of this before you continue to express yourself in ways that are not actually according to the scientific method, or what they call the real or normal scientific method, and realize that this is coming from something that was designed to gain attention, right? So people that are being rude and going into forums and places where you're not asked to come and leaving horrible comments to people and insulting them and doing everything but showing any kind of scientific method. And that's what we're up against. That is, again, what the truth movement has become, practically. Led by those who, of course, encourage this type of ridiculousness. I can't compete with that. All I have to sell is the truth. And it's free. It's free. You either take it or you don't. Now, what's such a shame is that you start to realize all these groups that you've been a part of, a lot of these radio show hosts, Zuck Jocks and stuff, they're also they're doing this as well. This is a technique, a method to defeat basically any argument. It's not that you ever actually prove your point. You win, or you feel like you win. This is a perfect example is We Are Change. I was involved in We Are Change. You get people's face, you do some guerrilla media, which is ultimately it's fun because these guys, these politicians, they don't know what to do with themselves, whatever challenges them. But at the same time, you're not doing anything. You're just throwing it in their face. And when you try to tell people about 9/11, the 9/11 truth movement, right? Oh, you don't believe it? Then you're this, you're that, you're a round earther, you're this, you're that, right? Here's the evidence, here's the visual proof. Therefore, George Bush did it. Therefore, this person did it. You have no connection whatsoever that you could possibly link to those things, but you know down deep in your heart that's the connection. You can't prove it, but you know it, and you throw it in people's face, right? Then you got the Mark Stevens type, the so-called anarchist type, who calls you a statist. You're a statist. Everything you say that disagrees with him, oh, you're a statist. You believe in something other than I believe. Therefore, you're a statist. You're this, you're that. It's always, you're not using the trivium. I have the trivium, you're not using the trivium, therefore I win. It's always the same thing. It's just the flat earth mentality. And when I say flat earth, again, I mean that appearance. There's no science. It's just the appearance of things, the form. And we'll talk about that. So, why is the Mandela effect so ridiculous? And once you see this, you realize, oh shit. Well, I've been fooled. It's all fiction. What has changed? Did the cherry tree become an apple tree? No. Did grass go from being green to blue or blue to green? No. Did the sky go from being yellow to blue? Did you remember something in nature and reality that No. It's all fiction. They changed their own fiction in order to cause this type of mentality. Well, gosh, it has to do with CERN and the propelling forces of the particle, what's it called? Particle, whatever it's called. You get the point. I mean, I had a video game in the 1980s that its premise was that a particle accelerator, that's what it's called, went out of offline and out of order and shifted this guy into an alternative dimension. That was a video game on the first clone PCs. It was called Another World. It's actually a highly acclaimed game. Horrible graphics, but I mean, that's how old this ridiculous thing is. I mean, I don't know what to say, man. Now they're making movies. They just made a new movie called the Cloverfield Paradox, right? The Cloverfield Paradox. That's what it's about. A particle accelerator that goes awry and makes the Earth disappear. And that's what caused the Cloverfield movie, or the original. Oh, I thought it would be a much better movie, but it just sucked. Anyway. And of course, his nickname was Parallax. What does that mean? To vary, to decline, or to wander beyond, and to change. What does the Bible say? They will strive to change times and laws. Change history and change law. The very law of nature. The very scientific method, in fact. That is what the flat earth parallax is all about. Zetetic. It doesn't have to do with flat Earth, really. That's just the most unprovable thing you can possibly put so that it can never be defeated. The argument, because again, this is essentially what we're talking about is God-like knowledge. You cannot possibly know one way or the other. That's the point. So you observe from the point where you can't tell, but you come to the conclusion not based on the scientific method per se, but purely on observation. Now, if we were still stuck in the observational mode and didn't have things like, computers, magnifying glasses, or telescopes, right? Can you imagine how different life would be without these incredible gadgets that they created to study science? Well, throw all that away with the Zatenic, because you can't see prions, you can't see the disease, you can't see parasites that are smaller than the eye reveals. You don't know doctors don't know you have a parasitic infection. They can't diagnose it. They admit that only 10% or so, or maybe it was less than that, of parasites can even be detected. Parallax in astronomy is the change of place in a heavenly body in consequence of being viewed from different points. The parallax difference between the place of a celestial body is seen from the surface, or from the center of the Earth, at the same instant. Annual parallax, the change of place in a heavenly body in consequence of being viewed at opposite extremities of the Earth's orbit. That's right out of Webster's 1828. So, again, purely an observational thing, right? So it's all about perspective. It's all about observational science, which the scientific method, while it uses observation, obviously, tends to steer away from just the notion of observability. For instance, the concept, which, again, people are saying, it doesn't exist. It's just a word, man. Of course it doesn't exist. But the concept, what's happening, which is gravity, is happening. There's something pushing down or pulling, whatever, again, your perspective, that you don't see. So the Zatenic philosophy would be to just, I don't know, what if you can't observe it, it must not exist. Or, it's just ridiculousness. It's like the blind leading the blind, essentially. And this also comes from theosophical, and this is the problem. Theosophical writings, theosophical shit has just absolutely ruined our ability to function in society, in education. Right? What is theosophy? Again, what did I say? It's divine wisdom or godliness, knowledge of God. Knowledge, in other words, having what you think is common knowledge when in actuality it can't be proven. What is a theosophist? One who pretends to divine illumination, one who pretends to derive his knowledge from divine revelation. Well, hey, what are you doing when you look at the horizon and you say, well, obviously the Earth is flat? That's you're pretending divine illumination. At least say I don't know. While it appears to be this way, it could be this. I mean, at least admit that you don't know. That's the foundation of science right there. I don't know. That's why I'm going to apply science. A theosophist, coming from God and comment or wise in the Greek. Pretension to divine illumination, enthusiasm about having godlike knowledge. So much so that you're willing to actually insult and cause a scene and put down people who don't believe the way you believe. Now, again, I'm not trying to express whether the Earth is flat or round here. I'm not going to insult you. Either way, this is stuff that can't be proven through observation. And that is the problem. That is the whole problem. You're observing the quote-unquote Mandela effect without consciously realizing everything that it affects is fiction, and fiction has no foundation. There's no... Who the fuck cares what Darth Vader said? I'm sorry. If they're going to change it, then they're going to put this satanic crap in your head to cause you to have a sophist reaction. What is a sophist? A professor of philosophy. A captious or fallacious reasoner. That is what sophist is. That's what you're being caused to do. Sophistry, fallacious reasoning sound in appearance only. And guess what? That's what's happening with a lot of people. And you know what? Let me just come out right now and say it. All right? I'm just going to say it out loud. This includes the Trivium. The Trivium is bullshit. There, I finally said it. And I wrote a long time ago how the Trivium is used as a fucking weapon. I have the Trivium and therefore I'm right. It's not that I am right, it's that I've observed something. I've used I've got a fallacious grammar, or grammar that was written meant to confuse, meant to confound. Therefore, based on that limited amount of grammar, out of millions of books, I have one, and therefore I base it on that grammar. Therefore, I develop my reasoning by logic. Logic, of course, a very bad thing when it's based on bad grammar. And my rhetoric shows my ignorance, which I, through sophistry, through fallacious reasoning, and through theosophy, through the notion of being very enthusiastic about what I've found, for instance, the scavenger Tartary thing, right, that's going on right now, that all of history is fake, and that all of the pyramids and everything are fake, and, I'm starting to realize this is all flat earth stuff. This is all flat earth stuff. This is all the changing of times and laws, just as we were warned, not only in the Bible, but in the frickin' Iron Mountain Report. This is what's happening. Sophistry, fallacious reasoning. Reasoning sound in appearance only. Well, what is appearance? Observational science. I read a book, therefore I know. It exists, therefore I am. It's nothing more than religion, really. But, have you noticed that these... It's kind of funny because it's like the Pokemon card game, right? Let me throw down the Pokemon cards. You use the fallacies like cards, like attack cards, right? Oh, you're using this fallacy. Oh, you're using this fallacy. Instead of ever getting to the actual point. Instead of actually correcting anybody, right? Just like little freaking battle cards. It's like a game. But nothing ever gets solved. We only seek to tear each other down instead of having and I think that's the difference. I think that's the difference between the elect, the elite, and us. They're a brotherhood. As we discussed, the very name of Philadelphia, the Philadelphs, right? The brotherhood. They're a brotherhood, and they can disagree all they want. They will never, ever, ever allow such sophistry, such fallacious discussions, such outrageous accusations to tear them apart. Now, in their case, it's organized crime, which is a bad thing. But the point I'm trying to make is that as a Christian brotherhood, something we can all relate to, as I've been able to find the true intent of that meaning as straight out of the concordances, out of the Bibles, none of my opinion, right? Just what it tells me, just what it translates to. You see, we don't have a brotherhood. We don't have a system of protection for each other. We use and abuse each other to the point where no one trusts anybody. There is no trust. There's no trust in man, and there's no trust in God. And that is our problem, because we're fighting the adversary. Right? We're fighting literally those who trust in mammon, those who trust in everything that is against the concept, the notion, the metaphor of Christ, the law of God itself, the law of nature, which we all talk about, but we never follow. See, we don't have a brotherhood, and that is our problem. And I'm experiencing that firsthand right now. And I'm not going to continue trying to pretend there is one, like everybody else seems to be. There's a movement. There's a group. There's this. There's that. No, there's not. There's nothing. There's no organization. It's completely libertarian, which is a bad thing. It has no organization. That's why it always fails. It's like the third party. It's never going to succeed because it's unorganized. It has no trust. It has no organization. It has no brotherhood. And I realize that's why these guys have power. That is exactly why they are in power. It's because of that brotherhood. It's a false. It's completely and 100% evil, whereas ours would be so much stronger because it's based on good. It's based on love and charity and kindness. Oh, man, that would be impossible to break. But no, we don't have that. That's not what we have. And you know what? I can't be a part of it. Maybe one day we'll find it together. But at this point, I will not be... I will not be a part of this. I can't do it anymore. So, good luck. These aren't self-evident truths. This is what I'm telling you to believe in, to put your faith in, to have trust in. Self-evident truth, that which cannot be disputed. Are you going to tell me flat Earth or round Earth or any fucking shape, hexagonal Earth can't be disputed? No, there's nothing self-evident until you go out to the point where God... where the divine wisdom can come to you, and you can be positively sure that what you're seeing is round or flat, or square, or none of the above, then you're just practicing theosophy through and expressing it through sophistry. And that's what the trivium has done to people, especially those who are promoting it as a weapon, using it as a weapon. I have it, therefore I might. Oh, you're wrong because you're not using the trivium. The biggest complaint I get is that at these people, and again, I'm not going to name names. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. They don't use the trivium. They talk about it. They quote it. They use it. They express what it is, but never actually use it in their reasoning. It's amazing to me. And this is another reason. That's why I'm quitting. I can't stand this. I can't stand giving myself to people, trusting in people, and then have them over something so ridiculous, have them... come out against you. I'm amazed. I'm just freaking amazed at how ridiculous this movement has become. And I'm not going to apologize for anything here. This is why I'm done. These men have obscured and confounded the nature of things by their false principles and wretched sophistry. Sophistry is exercise in logic. Logic is not a good thing. Logic is not reasoning, per se. Logic is most often fallacious, because logic relies on what you know and don't know. Most of us do not know enough to be able to say something is certain. Now, when I go to a source document and I read from the source document, I have no problem saying, hey, this is how it is. But when I'm speculating on history, something which no man can ever prove in any way, shape, or form, then I'm using logic through something that they call the trivium, right? You got your grammar, your logic, your rhetoric. Sophistry is an exercise in logic. Logic based on bad grammar. Well, all history is bad grammar. All history is written by the victors. And if it's not, it's written by the losers. You're never going to get an accurate history of anything. And this is why I don't promote history. I don't say, hey, go read a history book. It's not good. Reading a bunch of facts on a frickin' timeline is not going to teach you anything. If anything, it's going to do what the Bible tells you not to do, which is to follow the stupid traditions of your forefathers. Because their forefathers did it before them. These are the warnings that are given to you in the scriptures, in the moral law, in the spiritual law. Remain spiritual. Do not allow secular, worldly things. Remember, the world is not the realm of God. Right? My realm is not of this world. We're talking about the spiritual realm. That doesn't mean something ethereal and unattainable. It just means truth. The word world, and I don't remember what the term in the concordance or in the Greek or Latin actually is, but the word world means things created by man, the legal system, etc. It does not mean the earth or nature, i.e. God. It means, and this is why I keep trying to express that it's foolish to separate God and nature. You cannot. Because nature is truth. Truth is nature. It's what is real. It's what is self-existence. Obvious. It's self-evident. I don't need a trivium. I don't need logic to conclude what is real and what is man-made. Right? You can't use the trivium. If you only live in truth, you have no place for the trivium. You have no need for logic based on grammar. Remember, what is grammar? Grammar is it's basically history, right? It's the musings of some man. Now let's apply our litmus test here, right? We always have to apply the litmus test to know what is truth and what is not, what is real and what is not, what is in nature, what is self-evident. So, does the trivium happen in nature? Or is it completely man-made? And of course, the answer is, it doesn't. It's not natural. Do the animal kingdom, does the bug world use the trivium? The parasites? Do prions? No, they don't have grammar. They don't read. They don't watch videos. They don't do any of the crap we do. When they're not taken away, they're not taken out of nature unless we put them in a cage. And at that point, they still can't read. Well, maybe we teach them commands. And maybe they know if they do a command, they'll get a treat. So maybe you could call that logic based on grammar, I guess. But the point is, hey, look, let's face it, the trivium is not a natural concept. It is a concept of man. It is not a concept of God. Yes, it's in the Bible. But it's more of a warning not to get stuck in the dialectic of this thing, the logic without reason, logic without knowledge, experience, etc. So again, the trivium is not truth. The trivium is like the scientific method is not truth. It is something you apply to possibly find the truth or possibly find error. It just depends on how you use it. If you use it as a weapon, then no doubt you're probably going to be going in the wrong direction. See, I've come to the understanding, and it was a very hard one to come to, that the only way to learn is through metaphor, through allegory, through story. That's the only way to learn anything that is real. And that probably sounds really odd to people. You mean the only way I can learn nonfiction is through fiction? Well, essentially, yeah. Essentially, my telling you of a story, and by personifying or anthropomorphizing some concept into a man, into whatever, so that I can tell the story of the concept by following the story of the man, even... But then you believe the literalness. The man was a real man. Oh, so I'm going to worship the man, not the point of the story. I'm not going to learn from the story. I'm not going to learn the moral lesson. No. I'm going to worship the idol. I'm going to worship, for instance, Jesus Christ as if it's God. As if Jesus Christ is Jehovah. Even though, throughout the Bible, Jesus Christ prays to Jehovah and says, I'm helpless. I don't know what to do. Please guide me. He calls Jehovah his father. Wait a minute. Son and father? Oh, okay. This comes... Oh, that's Catholic. Oh, we're talking about the Trinity. Oh, okay. That's not in the Bible, folks. The tribulation, not in the frickin' Bible, folks. The rapture, not in the Bible. This is religion. It's a way to control and deceive people and take them away from the Bible, the law. It's to take you out of that system. It's to make you stop respecting nature and worshiping it as that which sustains you, as God. See, this is the problem, man. How do I tell people, how do I actually express to people that the word God is not even in the frickin' Bible? Sure, it's in the King James translation because the king calls himself a god. Of course, he changed all the words that represented something God-like, something with authority, something with power, something esteemed too much, something that is taken out of context, something that is given more authority and more power, more prestige than it possibly deserves, and he calls it God. Word God wasn't used in the Bible. All the times the word God is used, it was the word Jehovah, or it was the word gods, Elohim, it was the word theos, godlike, it was the word king, it was a magistrate, it was a mayor, it was whatever it was a judge. Oh, but King James comes along and says, well, let's just call them all gods, because, when we go to court, we pray to the God of the court, which is the judge, the magistrate. You don't believe me? Look up the word magistrate. Or go to Strong's Concordance, go to all the frickin' times the word God is used, whether it's capitalized or not, or Lord, or even Jehovah, and look it up. I hate the Bible. I hate God because God did some horrible things. No, the word God was used to represent a man doing horrible things in the office, name, title of something that he didn't, that isn't natural. Thus we call him a God. Acting divinely. You see, this is the problem. But how do you tell people? How do you say something that sounds so ridiculous on its surface? The word God is not in the Bible. How do you possibly communicate that kind of understanding when no one is willing to do any kind of due diligence? No one is willing to go into the translations, the actual definitions of the words. How can you read the Bible, or for that matter, anything related to it, and not even know the definition of the word God? That is the idiocracy. How do I know we live in an idiocracy? Because we go to our friendly neighborhood grocer. How many times do I have to say this? Every store, retail store that you enter is a grocer. They're engrossing, which used to be a crime. To buy up things at a cheap price, at a reasonable price, at something that everybody could possibly, everything would be great. And then monopolize that and resell it at ridiculous prices. It's called usury. In this case, it's called engrossment. That's why they call him a grocer. That's how you know we live in the most idiocracy known to man. Because we pay outrageous, exorbitant prices for canned meat. I love me some Spam. I mean, we pay for something we could pick off a tree. We get bottled water instead of utilizing the proper functionality of water, making it funnel. You know, I can't remember the guy's name who... Anyway, we do the stupidest things. This is how I know that we're in a sophist, absolute 100% sophist society. Meanwhile, expressing ourselves theosophically as if we know everything. We're the most stupid people in history. Not because we don't know the English language, not because, I went to school. Those people who didn't go to school and who worked the land, they had knowledge. You have information, something in form, the form without the substance. That's not knowledge. That's why they call it intelligence. You are being fed so much bullshit called information and intelligence. You are being directed away from God and into the artificial intelligence. You can't have artificial knowledge. There's no such thing. There's only artificial intelligence. Well, we have intelligence that says there's weapons of mass destruction over... See, government can do anything based on intelligence. Because intelligence doesn't have to be real. It doesn't have to be truth. That's why intelligence is so damn important. That's why you have the CIA. Central Intelligence. Because they create. They don't find. They create intelligence. They create artificial information. That's the purpose. And here's little old me trying to compete with all that. And it's not, I can't do it anymore. Yes, they use aborted fetal tissue, clone it, and grow things on it. This is why you have such problems with your health, because you're literally injecting the protein cell substrates, the logician, also called the dialectician. Isn't that interesting? Now, of course, the word dialectic is another word for logic, and that's the whole problem with logic, is that it causes a dialectic. Oh, but I have grammar, and therefore my dialectic must be right, because I have the trivium. That's my rhetoric. You see, my... the logician, also called the dialectician, and of course this is why the Hegelian dialectic is so important, and I highly recommend reading Hegel. The author of the Hegelian dialectic. His stuff is incredible. I quote a lot from him in my book. This is not to say that I support him or whatever. It's just, to understand your enemy is, of course, to understand your current disposition. Logician, also called dialectician, and a member of a school of Chinese philosophers of the Warring States period, 475 to 221 BCE. In the Chinese school, it's called the Mingjia, Wide-Giles romanization, Mingxia, the School of Names. The School of Nouns, because one of the problems addressed by the logicians was the correspondence between name and actuality. Chad Hansen did a thing on logic in China. The Routledge Encyclopedia of Philosophy, London, New York, 1998. This is from pages 694 to 695. Systematic argument in Chinese philosophy began with the Maoist school, founded in the 5th century BC by the first anti-Confucian thinker Mao Tzu, 468 to 376 BC. He laid down three tests for the validity of a doctrine: ancient authority, common observation, and practical effect. At first, the controversies of the various schools over moral and political principles led to increasing rigor in argument, then to an interest in dialectic for its own sake. Again, dialectic for its own sake, as evidenced in Hugh Xi's Paradoxes of Infinity and in Kung Sung Long's Sophism, A White Horse is Not a Horse. Remember, sophism, right? Fallacious reasoning. That is what logic stems from when you have limited or bad or even purposefully misleading grammar, and that's what's happening. That's what's happening all over the place. That is the Flat Earth Society. Logic, unfortunately, and reason are two different things. While some reasoning is used in logic, logic is a dialectic. It's the difference between the two is so damn important. Because reason, of course, as the Masons say, is the light of everything. It's the basis of law. But logic stems more towards the legalistic view of things. And it's really hard to put a distinction there, but let's continue. This comes from formalism, which has the meaning of strict adherence to prescribed forms. Philosophy, theology, literature, and art, suggesting detachment of form from content or spirituality or meaning, or belief in the sufficiency of formal logic. Again, a belief in the sufficiency of formal logic. That is formalism. Detachment from content or spirituality or meaning. Belief in the sufficiency of formal logic. The scriptures, of course, warn us of those who separate from substance, right? In fact, they call them the Pharisees. Pharisee from the Greek, I'm not going to go over all the words, a plural of parish, or separated or separatist, as in he separated, distinguished by strict observance, but regarded as pretentious and self-righteous. Self-righteous person is a formalist, a hypocrite, also attested from the 1580s. The word formal is an adjective from the 14th century, meaning pertaining to a form or arrangement, and in philosophy and theology pertaining to the form or essence of a thing, formal, constituent, etc. Form, a figure, a shape. Again, we're talking about observance. We're talking about grammar, essentially, without actual sense, without actually substance, without experience. How about that? That's a better word. Information without actually experiencing that information. That's what history is. And due or proper form according to recognized form. My whole book, over and over, I say, form without substance. That is the legalist, the logic realm. Things that are formal, information. And so we say that someone is in good form, in an orderly manner, when they do something, of course, right, legally, as we say, in prescribed customary form. To formalize something is to give an appearance of being to that thing. Thus, I may formalize the fact, the perceived fact, the form of something like Tartary. So these guys are talking about Tartary. I can see now what it is that they're actually talking about, calling what is bad good, and just as you'd expect. What we're talking about is the notion of Gog and Magog. All that quote-unquote genealogy of the Bible, the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Mesech, Ashkenaz, all those different things that ended up being what is it, Scythians? The Scythian tribes or whatever from Antiquities of the Jews. You're talking about the Magogites, the Gog of the land of Magog, the dictator of the dictatorship, is what Tartary is actually referring to. Yes, it was an sort of the exiled group of people. Anyway, I don't know what to say, but it was not a good thing. That's all I have to say. Just look up Gog and the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh, Meshech, Tubal, in Ezekiel, I think is the book that I don't know what to say, but there's something going on here where Gog and Magog are being put in the light, a good light. All the forces of China and Russia and the end times prophecy of the giant, the final, army, whatever, I don't know. But there's something very, very wrong going on here. The country of Gog, which the Assyrians called it Magog, the geographical term used by Hebrews of old and Arabs today. The vast stretch of country to the north of the Black Sea, Caucasus, Caspian Sea, Hindu Kush, Altai. The Greek geographicers was Scythia, so the Scythians. Yeah, there's so much more to this, and it's they're portraying it as a place where the natural law was followed. No, it's quite the opposite, actually. Mongol, sometimes written as Mongol, appears directly derived from Magog. In India, Mongol becomes Mongol. And a large part of China was known as Manji when Europeans first visited. And so the Arabs called the Scythian tribes of Tartary Yajuj and Majuj, which is Gog and Magog in the Great Wall of China as the Wall of Al-Magog. Now, I'm not going to go, I don't know enough to go into this. But what we're talking about are essentially the descendants, which is not a word that means necessarily family. It's just the people, the tribes of this thing we call Magog. I won't go any further into it, but that is what I see is actually happening. And what is considered bad in the Bible is being considered as good. Tartary, this magical land of natural. No, that's you got. This is all out of the origin of nations and all of that, and it's very dangerous, this path. So I'm just going to leave it at that. It's such a useless thing to argue history and to have that confidence, that arrogance to think I'm absolutely right. I have a book, it says this, and therefore that. No. Learn. Be spiritual. Be in the now. This is not healthy at all. But anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that. That's what I see is happening right now. To reduce to form. See, this is what we do when we examine history. This is why I warn people. Do not ever mistake spiritual learning. Do not try to utilize the notion of form, this notion of history, of a timeline of events that mean nothing, to spiritual teaching and spiritual learning. They're opposite to each other. One is legalistic, i.e. logic, it's sophistry, and one is of course, real. One is something that you can actually learn something from, and it's very difficult to realize the only way you can learn a lesson is through allegory, metaphor, like I said. Don't reduce it to a form. Don't reduce it to a name or a title. Be real. The word formality, it comes from the meaning of an agreement as to the form of something. Well, what are we trying to do? We're trying to come to an agreement to what history is? If history were real, we wouldn't need to come to an agreement. If we could possibly ever know history, there would be no arguments over what history is. Same thing with legalism. We know what the law of nature is. We don't know what legalism is, so we have conformity to established rule. That's formality. Right? We conform ourselves to that, which if we don't, we pay a fine or get our heads beaten in or get put in prison. It means something done for the sake of form. See, it's all about the form without the substance. And that's the problem, because you cannot mix spirituality, which is substance, with form, which is basically devices of man, imagination. And this is the problem with the trivium. You can't use the trivium in truth. You might use it to get to the truth. I'll give you that. You might use it to protect yourself from certain things, from attorneys. Yeah, I can see that. But once you're in the truth, you don't need it. It's irrelevant. It means nothing. The problem is you use it as a weapon. You use it as grammar. It's practically like my grammar. I don't need grammar. I have the trivium. So how about informal? What's informal? Well, it's something lacking form, not in accordance with the rules of formal logic. In other words, if I don't have a legal entity, a legal identity, I'm informal. I'm lacking form in the legal realm. Form doesn't mean that it's substance. There's no substance to form, right? I can have any form. Doesn't mean I have substance. This is the problem with information. It's form without substance. To know something that you've never experienced, that's theosophy. That's where you get sophistry. That's where you get this dialectic. Because you've never experienced history, you believe it to be true. And therefore, any history that's presented to you that presents itself as something that it fits my dialectic better, and therefore I'm going to believe in whatever. You see the problem. It's form. There's no substance to this. You base your whole belief, you're going to change every aspect of your entire being because you have a belief in form without substance. Something you cannot know, something you cannot experience, something you cannot prove. That's incredible. But that's the trivium. You see, that's the problem. No one has all the grammar. No one. Meaning of irregular, unofficial, not according to rule or custom. That's informal. That's where you want to be. A sense of an action or deed done without ceremony. What does the Bible say? Yeah, of course, do not do things according to the traditions of your fathers if they're against the natural law, the law of nature, If they're against the word of God, if they're against truth. Why do priests wear robes? Right? What does that do? It's a custom, it's a rule. It means nothing. It's form without substance. It's part of the formalism. We want to be informal. What is it to be a resident? It means to be in form. What does it mean to be a U.S. citizen? It means to be in form. Not informal. It means to be in the form of some thing. But we're not supposed to be something. That's a noun. That's a name. Person, place, or thing. You see how this all works? Spirituality has no form. Spirituality is all about substance. You don't talk out your ass because you read a book. You don't say that because I have logic, I've somehow logically concluded that this is true. But wait a minute, you're talking about fiction. You could say it exists in fiction, in your mind. Only formal things need to be proven. This is the problem. You see, if you're negative, if you're acting in the negative law, which is the moral law, the unwritten law, see, unwritten law, informal, you don't need to prove anything. The only reason you need to prove anything is if you're a citizen or a resident. You have to have that birth certificate, that legal identity. You don't want that. Formal logic. Very dangerous without informal spirituality. And this is why the spiritual or the moral law is always, the unwritten law is always supposed to be more powerful and rule over and guide the legal aspect of things. It's the way it's all set up. It's not my opinion. There must be a balance. Form without substance is basically Satanism, fiction. So what that boils down to is that the trivium method and the scientific method, for that matter, are formalities. Corporate Christianity, other forms of religion, they're formality. Citizenship is a formality. They've got their own doctrines. Well, we know the rule on that. They're unspiritual by their very nature. Yes, Christianity included. They serve only the purpose of causing conformity to man's law, man's idea, man's devices, his designs, his formulas. They view all of reality and nature only in form, ignoring the substance. The logician and the formalist often forget their subject need not be proven to exist. See, that's the whole concept of the Bible. You don't need to prove your existence. You don't need identity. Your existence is self-evident. Therefore, it is of God. That's the definition of God, is all that is self-existent. It all folds back in on itself. That's what's so beautiful about it. You don't need the trivium. The trivium is for fiction. But there's got to be someone out there. There's got to be some elect, some elite. There's got to be someone with some kind of bankroll. How about these guys who've come out and said, I used to work for Facebook, and I realized we completely ruined society with Facebook, but that's okay because I made $1 billion. Oh, now I want to have restitution, so I'm going to create a capital venture thing to invest in good companies or good ideas. Yeah, well, why aren't you investing in me? How about investing in a vaccine documentary that completely exposes a pharmaceutical company and government as being complicit in the whole fucking disease spectrum? How about that? You think I'm just saying that? No, I have proof. I don't say things I don't have proof of. I'm not sophist. But where is it? Where's the funding? Where is it? Where is it? See, now I understand. I understand why it is said that through God, anything is possible. I get it now. because there's no money. I'm not bound by money. I don't need to go to someone else and suck their cock to get money. I don't need to bow down to some station owner to get airtime. And get paid for it. You see, all things are possible in reality, in nature, in the truth. Because God is truth. Truth is God. Right? That's the definition of God. The truth. Self-evident existence. Self-existence. What exists despite man? Something that's not created by man. That is where all things are possible. But you got to limit that. It doesn't mean you're going to become a millionaire, because that's not a real thing. Or you see, what that means is that science, real science that will benefit all men without profit or gain, is possible. That's what it means. You got to get your head out of your ass and think in the terms of the law of nature. You can't just, I can't be rich. No, you can't. Because then you're not following the law of nature. You're keeping from everybody else and being wealthy. You can't enter the kingdom of heaven. On earth, that is. You can't cause heaven to exist with that kind of mentality. All things are possible. All things are possible when you give up all the lies, all the fictions, all the personas, the masks, right? Everything, the money, the valuation, the simulation, the simulacrum. All that is what makes all things impossible. That is the stumbling stone. Fiction destroys nature, destroys all. Doesn't really do it, right? Remember, it's just the Mandela effect. It's just the fiction that changes. It's the fiction that blinds. It's the lies that keep us from living the truth, in the truth, under the law of truth, the law of God. God is truth. I mean, eventually all this stuff just falls in on itself. It's the same concept repeated over and over, no matter what you say. When you understand what the word God, the word Jehovah, is meant to come across as, existence itself, truth, right? Eternal being as a verb, the verb being, as in I am in being right now, and that is what I worship, and that is the law that I follow. I don't follow history, and I don't follow what is the future history. I live my life So that 7 generations, 10 generations, 20 generations from now, they will have it even better than I do. That is all things possible. But you see, we're so far removed from that I can't even, it takes a whole show just to even cover one problem. So what is the Flat Earth Society then? Well, again, we're coming from theosophy. Let me read you something from theosophical.org website. Again, this is on my blog. One of the last things I actually put up. What is the the Flat Earth Society, a brief history. From theosophical.org, let me explain the esoteric notion of flat Earth. All right, and this is essentially the, if you will, if you could call it spiritual, I guess, it's the false spirituality. It's the Zetetic mindset, the methodology, the beliefs, the mythology. All right, to have an earth mind is what it says. Starting where we are in the world of appearances, we see the myriad of forms from our time and place of seeing, from our point of view and perspective. We are the subject registering objects. This is my world, my life, my things, my roles, fear and desire. The mask of persona, the consumer, habits, the everyday world, the world of natural living. This is the flat world. The sun revolves around us. This is the data storage mind, the calculating mind, taking care of business. This is the trivium mind, in other words. This is the earth world. The outer world, the subject-object awareness dominates. Esoteric initiations, however, in addition to the meditation, ancient myths, and near-death research, we have a similar process described in the psychological initiations of consciousness familiar to esoteric groups. There are notable similarities between the process of natural life and death and the ending of an old value system and rebirth into a new perspective. Let me read that again. There are notable similarities between the process of natural life and death and what we're seeing right now, again, those who change times and laws, the ending of an old value system and the rebirth into a new perspective, i.e., Flat Earth Society. Zetetic non-science. Observational appearance only. As they call it, flat world. Earth mind. Your perspective is from that which you're trying to figure out. You're not outside of it, you're in it. You cannot see the matrix when you're fucking in it. You cannot see that the world is round or flat while you're on it. Transpersonal psychologists love to look at this process of death and rebirth in consciousness. One of the first of these was the Romanian scholar Mircea Eliade, I'm saying that wrong, who observed, quote, initiatory death provides the clean slate on which will be written the successive revelations whose end is the formation of a new man. Yes, the Zetetic Flat Earth man. The Mandela Man. This new life is concerned as the true human existence, for it is open to the values of the spirit. Unquote. True human existence. The process, again, human is the unregenerate man. Human is Adam. Human is the fallen. Human is they who belong to man. It's the things that belong to man. Human anatomy, human hair, human this. There's no difference in saying horse hair, horse tail. The process of initiatory death wipes the slate clean so that a new chapter in the book of life may begin fresh, open, and unprejudiced by old cultural and social values and views. Again, they will seek to change times and laws. Initiation breaks down old patterns of behavior. It allows people to begin again. Let me say that again. Initiation. Okay, into theosophy. Initiation breaks down old patterns of behavior. It allows people to begin again and to see with new perception. Right? Flat Earth perception. The new values become the principal values of the new life. The human life. At each initiatory death and rebirth, we begin with a new view from a higher elevation. We see more, we know more, and can relate to whole systems more readily. Seeing and accepting life as a process of birth and death instead of regarding life as the opposite of death is an initiation into reality. What do they basically say? They're replacing the notion of being reborn in the Bible, which means to go back to nature, go back to reality, and they're saying, no. Take a new view from a higher elevation. It's a death and rebirth situation, right? Let's replace the biblical spiritual notion of going back to the law of nature, and let's replace it with sophistry, with essentially theosophy. Now, the sources listed here are Alice Bailey, Madame H.P. Blavatsky, and the Dalai Lama. Oh, but Dalai Lama, no, folks. Anyway, this is, again, when I say grammar, when I'm talking about grammar, why grammar is a bad thing for the most part, why most of the things that we read, especially history books, anything that's not self-evident, this is a litmus test, anything that's self-evident, anything that can't be proven, in other words, anything you can't observe through the scientific method, anything that you get the idea, not just observational through sight or through logic, false logic, sophistry. Adversaria, from adversa, things remarked or ready at hand, rough memoranda, commonplace books. What does Satan mean? It means the adversary. What is adversaria in the Latin? Well, things that are common, ready at hand, commonplace books. Well, where are these people getting their grammar? From adversaria, from commonplace books. From the Latin adversus. Or, what did we say? God is the universe, so what's the adverse? What's the opposite of God? The adverse, adversaria, Satan. Right? Anything that's against nature, anything that's against truth. Among the ancients, a book of accounts, so named from the placing of debt and credit in opposition to each other, a commonplace book. To be adverse is to be opposite, to be turned, to advert. The opposite, opposing, acting in a contrary direction, conflicting, counteracting. Well, that sounds a lot like the Zetetic philosophy. Opposing desire, contrary to the wishes or the supposed good, calamitous, afflictive, pernicious, unprosperous. What is Satan? Satan is Hebrew for an adversary, the grand adversary of man, the devil, the prince of darkness, chief of the fallen angels, all that allegorical crap. Yes, that which is adversary. Well, we become the Satan. We become the adversary. We use the trivium. We say, well, I read a book. Look, I went online and found a book. A friend of mine actually said when I was explaining this whole trivium thing, using it as this weapon where it actually has the capability of just stopping a conversation. Well, you don't have the trivium, therefore you're wrong. You're not using my particular method, therefore you're wrong. It's such bullshit. And you know what? He said it reminded me of the EST movement. You guys ever heard of the EST or EST training thing? It's the 40th anniversary was in 2011, and Psychology Today put a paper out on it. And if you study, you might have come across it. I've come across it in limited ways, never thought much about it. But he's right, man. It's just exactly the same thing. So 40th anniversary of the EST training, a gathering of the original human potential movement graduates. It says there are many people in the world, and you may be one of them, who have nothing good to say about EST, or Earnhardt Seminar Training, or its controversial founder, Werner Erhard. EST was one of the very first intensive consciousness seminars of the human potential movement in the early 70s, the prototype for hundreds of spin-offs and workshops that continue to be offered today. Oh, I don't know, like the Trivium method. Over the years, there have been negative stories, rumors, accusations of cultish behavior, disaffected employees, and so on. Well, consider me disaffected. Consider me disenfranchised. The usual stuff we have come to expect from EST. But there are also far more people in the world, by a long shot, who are among the million or so participants that attend at Erhard's training, who were thrilled by the results they received. People had enormous and powerful changes occur in them in a very short time. In other words, they were brainwashed. It was a 2-weekend course, and no naysayer could talk them out of the very real value they experienced in their lives as a result of participating in EST. Kind of like, well, I went to EST, you are therefore lower than me, I have the trivium, therefore you are lower than me. Whether it was dramatic transformations in their relationships with their families, with their work and personal vision, or most important, with the recognition of who they truly were in the core of their beings. Now, does that sound like what I'm talking about, or does that sound like a cult? Does that sound like religion? You see, what would happen is, and this guy that I was talking to, good friend, brilliant guy, way too smart for any of this kind of stuff, he would instantly recognize those who had been, and he would specifically say, hey, are you into EST? Because if so, then yeah, let's just stop right here, because it's not going to happen. It's cultish. It changes your behavior. It literally causes you to be kind of an asshole. So yeah, that's not giving it any type of justice as to how it makes people feel, how it just completely it takes you out of the realm of reality and puts you into this notion where you know everything because you have EST. You attended EST training, and therefore, right, you attended Trivium, you read Trivium, and you know all about it, therefore you are above. It's just such bullshit. So if it tells you anything, the notion of EST became landmark. Landmark, I don't know, some people call it a cult, whatever. Landmark education, landmark worldwide, whatever it's called now, I don't know. Started from Werner Erhard, of course, same kind of seminars, business training, that sort of thing. Lots of people have different opinions on landmark worldwide, but that gives you an idea of where this comes from. So, and I tell you, yeah, people just absolutely either loved it or you hated it. You lost family members, you lost people because, it's kind of like what happens in the truth movement. I look at this and I think, hey, that's what happens with We Are Change. That's what's happened with these groups. We all lose because we're kind of assholes when it comes to trying to quote unquote spread the truth, even though we're not even speaking the truth half the time, right? That's kind of the same thing. And I'm starting to see that about this whole entire alternative movement. It's kind of like that. And I don't want to be a part of it anymore. I find myself more against it than with it most of the time. So, there's too many flaws, too many lies that are told as truths that are provable. The whole Federal Reserve thing, I don't want to get off on a tangent on that, but I mean, my God, how long can that myth go on? Just crazy. Well, I have this one source out of millions, and therefore my logic is based on this one or two sources, therefore I'm right. And my rhetoric is based on that. But I don't acknowledge any other sources because I haven't read them. I haven't touched the other sources. I don't know about the secret society sources. I have no idea how many sources are actually out there on the subject. Hell, it might have been disproved, but you know what? I haven't touched that subject. I haven't touched that tome yet. It's not in my grammar. Therefore, my rhetoric will not allow it to alter my logic. It's a deadly freaking twisted form of consciousness. It's a horrible way to look at things. It really is. And the way you start treating people, which is how I've been treated, it borders on ridiculous. And that is how people feel when they're around people who have attended the EST training. EST. If you're not familiar with it, you can certainly look it up, and it's quite interesting to read about it. But yeah, that's the problem. It's if you're living in truth, you don't need anything to tell you what is truth, right? It's so simple. So here's my problem, folks. This is why I'm giving up. I give up. I'm so sick and tired of having conversations with people about fiction, trying to make them understand, look, we can argue about this all day. We can have an argument about money, its value, its use, the stock market. It's all fiction. There's nothing to argue about. It's fiction, period. End of story. It's not real. It controls your life. You're letting it control your life. And you know what this is my parting advice to folks, all right? This is my parting words. I don't like the word advice because I don't want to add any vice to your life like all these other people are doing. No vice being sold here. You see, and that's the problem. There's no price tag on truth. I can't sell you the truth. I can't charge you. Right? It's something you can figure out on your own. I can't sit here and see, the only thing I can sell is hope. Hope is the worst word, the worst concept in the world. I'm going to tell you why. Why do I despise hope? Well, think about it, folks. What is hope? Hope is something you're doing when you're not doing it. When you're not acting. Well, gosh, I hope my garden grows. You better get out there and fucking plant some seeds, water it, and be husband to the land. Then your garden will grow. Well, gee, I hope it rains. Well, don't rely on the rain. Make sure you have a harmonious system that makes sure that your plants are watered. This is husbandry. This is the idea of utopia. Utopia just means good topiary. Dystopia, bad topiary, bad garden. What was the Garden of Eden? It was a prison. It was a good garden. It was a place where none of the concepts of man existed. But we eat of the tree, and it separates us from that utopia. Utopia is not a mysterious word. You know what it means? Etymologically, it means the middle of nowhere. Oh, let's think about that. The middle of nowhere. Gosh, how do I find utopia if it's in the middle of nowhere? Folks, that just means anywhere that's not touched by man. That's all it means. What is utopia? It means harmony with the land. It means harmony with nature. It means you're not going in and trying to alter nature to benefit you and you alone. You don't clear cut it. You don't put a fence around it. You don't dam it up. You don't do all these things that we do. You see, here's our problem. What is the purpose of government, folks? Government's main purpose, in a, if you will, a metaphysical or a spiritual concept or anti-spiritual way, what does it do? It keeps us in a state of perpetual hope. That's why you vote. That's why you pay attention to politics, why you watch TV, fiction, because you're looking for some granule of hope. You don't do anything. You don't act. You don't change anything yourselves. You don't know how. All the ability to act, the opposite of hope, action, all that has been taken away from you, your consciousness. You're separated from the land. You're separated from that which makes you whole. You're separated from God. Because remember, God just means existence. It's the universe. It's a verb. It means being. You're separated from your own being, your own place in nature. We all are. I'm including myself in this. Don't ever think that I don't include myself in these conversations when I say you're a fool. I'm a fool. I'm born a fool. We're all born fools. That's even a term in the frickin' legal dictionaries. We are literally, legally, quote unquote, fools born or born fools. That is the purpose. Why? Because we're born into a system of pure hope. Well, I hope that there'll be food at the grocery store because I don't have any way of supporting myself. I hope that my bank will have money in it so I can withdraw it. I hope the government's there to protect me and ensure my safety. I hope this, I hope that. What are you doing to actually cure yourself of this disease called hope? You're not doing anything. And the study of history certainly isn't going to do it. Pretending like history and artifacts and pyramids and everything don't exist or that there's some kind of models, that's not going to help. And what is the ultimate perpetual hope? What is it? It's going to be the artificial intelligence, right? Everything artificial. You see, here's the deal, folks. There's nothing to hope for in nature. Okay, that's why you're to be reborn back into your nature or innocence. When you have innocence, you're not hoping for anything. You're innocent. You don't have those. You're not eating from this tree of the concepts of man, of good and evil. You're not hoping for money. You're innocent. You're not hoping for sex. You're not hoping for this. You're not hoping. No, you're innocent of those types of influences. You do. You don't hope. You realize what you need and what you don't need, and everything else is a want. Put those wants away. Focus on what's needed. Focus on husbandry, focused on love, focus on charity, focus on everything that is good. See, nothing in nature spells hope. Nature just is. It doesn't care whether you hope it's something it's not. You see, there is no hope in Jehovah. Jehovah is just existence. God, see, how hard is it? How difficult is it, again, for me to say God is not in the Bible? There's no God. There's no thing to work. It's everything. It's not something you anthropomorphize for purposes of worship. No. You anthropomorphize it, personify it into a character so that you can learn. But you don't worship it literally as that anthropomorphization. Okay? Robin Hood didn't exist in the first place, and he certainly didn't exist as Disney's fox who played the part. You don't worship Robin Hood. You learn from what the story of Robin Hood, right? I mean, you don't worship Christ. You worship God by following the example of Christ, the law, personified. There's no hope there. That's action. Following the law, that's action. There's no hope. Hope dies the second you act. See, we're caught in the realm of the noun and the verb and the noun and the verb. I go over this constantly in my book. See, the verb is the real thing. It's an action. But the noun is just an empty name for that action, that thing, that person, that place. See, noun is a name. Noun and name are the same words. We do everything in name only. Well, that's where hope lies. You see? We say, well, we don't need to do charity. Government does that. It's got churches for that. Religions will take care of the No. Just because you call yourself charity, just because you put hope into your name, or that doesn't mean anything. It's empty. And so we're literally stuck in hope, right? We hope things change. We hope this. We hope that. We're not doing anything. We're not doing anything to make it change. And you know what? I don't know how to tell you this. There's nothing you can do. The only thing you can do is leave it. Okay, that's what I intend to do. There's nothing you can do. Just leave it. It's not real. If you don't like virtual reality, step out of it back into reality. It's just that simple. You don't like what's in the Matrix? Time to unplug and face reality, where there's no hope. There's only what you do, what you manifest. That is what you will get. Okay, it's not a dream state. It's not as if you can press a button and have food appear. That's not real. Have you ever once actually worked for anything in your life? You know, that's a question. Well, yeah, I did. I worked at Barnes & Noble. I worked at Kmart, Walmart. I worked for a prestigious business. Really? What did you do? What did you work towards? What did you work for? What did you accomplish? What were you paid in? You were paid in hope. It's called currency. I hope that this IOU will be accepted by some other fool who falls for the money system. You didn't work for anything. You participated in voluntary slavery, were paid in company script to be spent in a company store. You're paid in hope. You're paid in something that has no value unless others accept it as valuable. You haven't worked for anything in your life. You work 40 hours a week, 20 hours a week, 60 hours a week, hoping that the company can pay you. Hoping, for instance, that the government doesn't shut down. Hoping. It's all about hope. And when you monetize hope, when you put a value on hope, when you actually literally make hope into the currency, then you got everybody. We transact in hope. It's time to act. And when I say that, I don't mean hold up a frickin' sign. I don't mean get online and make a video. I don't mean that. I mean get the fuck out of this place. Get out of this jurisdictional crap. Get out. Stop participating. Stop respecting it. Do so honorably, don't get me wrong. As long as you're in it, you better damn well respect it. But when you're ready, get the hell out. Stop hoping and start acting. You know, that's the only words of wisdom I can part you with today. I don't have anything else to say. It's time to act. Learn about husbandry. That's the other thing. Is husbandry is everything. You see, husbandry isn't just for your marriage. It's for the land. It's for the animal that you keep. It's the garden you grow. Everything's about husbandry. And if you don't know what husbandry is, then your marriage is a sham. If you don't understand husbandry, and I assume by the culture nowadays that most people don't, by the litigious nature of divorce that people have no idea what husbandry actually is, especially when it comes to the land, which we shit all over and then expect it to yield produce for us. Oh, well, we don't have to do that because we've got our friendly neighborhood grocer, right? Frickin' insanity. It's time to act. And the only legitimate action that you can take is to settle your accounts, settle your debts, and leave this contractual state of hell. Work towards that goal. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Don't be a fool. Don't try to beat the system that you're shorty for. That's not what I'm saying. But when it comes time, and the time will come where you must make a decision, then it will be time to act. Now, I've got a couple more things I want to cover. Just a little bit of understanding here, because I've talked about the birth certificate quite a bit. It provides legal identity. All right, I want you to think of the movie Tron right now. What does the birth certificate do? It pulls you into the matrix. It pulls you into the simulation, just like it does to the user. The user becomes the program. The user gets sucked in and becomes the very program that user controls. So the user and the program become the same thing, essentially. The program becomes sentient. You see, that's legal identity. That's your computer, your artificial construct, right? That's exactly the metaphor that it's trying to put across. Whether it's the Matrix or Tron or anything else. The user is bound by the parameters of the program. The program is bound by the parameters of the computer system it exists in. The man is bound by the parameters of the legal identity, the citizenship. The citizenship is bound to the jurisdiction that it exists in. It cannot go anywhere besides that. The user, therefore, in that fictional construct is no longer a man, no longer has the abilities of a man, no longer has free will, no longer has anything but what the program, the citizenship, the legal identity is permitted to do within the legal construct. You know, it's really that simple. It's an excellent allegory. It's an excellent metaphor. It's an obvious metaphor. The master control program, the government of that legal fictional system within that program could not control the man who was controlling the program. It could only control the program. The government cannot control the man unless the man is behind and acting as in agency with a citizen, a legal identity. And that is why the birth certificate is created, to establish legal identity, residence, and citizenship in the nation, to cause you to be a goyim. Simple as that. Again, excellent, excellent metaphor. Even better, really, than the Matrix when you think about it. Nothing is ever going to happen while we're plugged into the fiction. You cannot change your reality through fiction. You cannot change the laws of nature through the laws of man. If you get one thing from today, I want you to get that. Nature provides no hope. God, if you will, Jehovah, existence itself, offers you no hope. It says, here is existence. This is how it is. This is the air you breathe. This is the water you drink. This is how you live. You either accept it or you don't. You either live in it or you don't. You either preserve it, conserve it, love it, and be husband to it, or you don't. There's no hope there. I don't hope my garden grows and then neglect it. That's idiotic. You know, this is the way things are now. It's a constant cell of hope. A constant sell of EST, a constant sell of Trivium, a constant sell of patriotism. Choose your group. Choose your distraction. I don't, whatever you like. Or come over and just live. Just be in reality. And support each other. Right? These are your choices. And you know what I realize? I realize because I'm not offering that hope, I'm not offering anything but self-responsibility and the truth of the things and calling everything bullshit, that's not something that can be sold. That's what it is. I'll never forget the day that John Statmiller himself, the head of RBN, he says, and I really appreciated this. It actually made me feel good. It gave me a bite of reality. It hurt, but it made me feel good. Here's what he said. He said, Clint, I love your show. I want to keep your show going, but I got to be honest with you. I cannot sell you. I cannot make revenue from your show. I'm not going to cancel your show. Your show's very important. What you're saying is very important. People comment on it all the time. But I can't sell you. I can't I can't sell you to advertisers. And it was that point when I actually realized why nobody sponsors me. Why I get these wonderful donations from wonderful people out there, but why no one else is going to do. There's not going to be any corporate sponsorship, obviously. There's not going to be, the elite, or what are they going to do? Go against their own secrets? Go against their own organized crime? Very doubtful. That would be like a Jew going against a Jew. Oh, yeah. No, that's a bad thing. That's the Bernie Madoff scenario. No. But instead of taking it badly, I took it with a bit of pride. I was like, well, yeah, that's kind of what I was going for. So I have only myself to blame. I'm sorry that I haven't sold you anything to make you hopeful. I mean, think about it, folks. Jesus Christ was not a traveling salesman. He wasn't a door-to-door salesman. He didn't have anything to sell. You quote me on that. That's a good one. Jesus Christ was not a traveling salesman. He didn't go around offering people hope, did he? He told them as it was. He literally said it like it was. That's all he did. You're a fool if you do this, and you're a wise man if you do this. That's all he ever did. Here's the allegory. Here's the parable. This is what's up. Take it or leave it. Bye-bye. I've told you that spirituality is not a pleasant thing. It's not something that you it's not like the EST thing. In other words, it's the opposite of EST. When you actually awaken to the spiritually to the truth and the law, it's a painful process. It's not a weekend fucking seminar that you go to and suddenly you're it's not the trivium. Oh, I have the trivium, therefore I'm the greatest thing in the world. I know everything. I have grammar, even though I don't have grammar, but I have some grammar. Right? It's just not like that. There's no cure-all. There's no seminar. There's no product I can sell you. There's just nothing like that. All right? I'm sorry. And I know. I get it. You can't sell me. Great. Fine. So, I got to go back. I got to do what I think is right. And I think it's right to put all this down in book format. Because it's permanent. It's not digital. It's not erasable. It's not censorable. I got to do it. So, on that note, like I said, I hope you continue to support me, even though you won't be hearing me as much. I'll probably do a couple podcasts every once in a while, and I certainly welcome any opportunity to do an interview on any other platform, no matter how big or small. And with that said, I bid you a farewell. Red Pill Sunday School, oh, you'll see it pop up here every once in a while, maybe on my website. Remember my other website's strawmanstory.info, where you can download my book for free. realityblogger.wordpress.com. That's realityblogger with one G. realityblogger.wordpress.com. That is my blog for the last 9 years or so. thecorporationnation.com, which I haven't been to in a long time, but it's where I've posted all my documentaries, including my first vaccine documentary, The Corporation Nation. Great pension fund hoax, and all the different little things I've uncovered. And I think that's about it. Oh, all the archives, thanks to Drew. It's a long one. Corporation Nation Radio Archives.wordpress.com. That's Corporation Nation Radio Archives.wordpress.com. And, of course, the Red Pill Sunday School shows are also here, cataloged for your convenience. And also, of course, a special thanks to Jules here at UCY.tv for offering the platform. And, of course, her show airs today, as well as Hal Anthony's. The two shows I highly recommend. Anyway, thanks, guys. Take care. So the history of logic, strangely enough, comes from the same history as legalism.